Hello and welcome to this episode of the Academy Countdown, about the show where we look at all the films nominated for Best Picture at this year's Oscar. My name is Zachary Trevino, and today I'm joined by a very special guest.
I'm Bianca Moreno. Is that all I say?
I mean, you can say like your title or like.
Oh, okay. I'm the advisor, the runner, and avid film watcher who probably has better taste than Zach.
I mean, debatable. But we'll see. Well, what's undebatable is today we are looking at a very good movie, and that is Sentimental Value. And so, what were your initial perceptions going into this movie? What did you think about before you saw it?
It was probably one of the few foreign films that was nominated. I actually thought other films were going to be nominated before this one, so I don't think I had many expectations for it, and I was actually really surprised about how it felt after it was done. For sure. I think I raved about it for like weeks afterwards.
Yeah, because I remember when I had first heard about it, I had heard about it first as this movie that was really had a shot to go all the way. And I saw the trailer and I was so confused because I don't know if you've seen the trailer, but it's very interesting. Like it has a weird way of conveying itself. It has a lot of happy music and a lot of kind of more cherished happier scenes, which is kind of funny because this movie is not the most happy of movies.
That's what I was going to say, because even the poster is kind of like, okay, what is this going to be about? And then one of the variations of the posters were the umbrellas. So you're like, what's happening here? But I agree, it was definitely, it definitely was one that you had to pour into for sure. And yeah, which I'm glad I did.
And so, for those uninitiated that haven't been keeping up with all the movies that are coming out, Sentimental Value is the story of a family and the heartbreak that comes through generations of trauma. And it's all kind of centered around this kind of structure that is the home that they grew up in, and how the house has stayed the same, but all these dynamics and all these relationships between these family members has changed. And immediately what becomes apparent is how interesting this kind of setup is for it to be the house to kind of be the grounding feature of this.
Which is interesting too, because even as he's filming his film, that's his setting as well. So it's like a meta, right? Situation of the movie is set in this house, and then the movie within the movie is set in the house as well. So it just shows how symbolic the setting is for sure.
Yeah, and that's the other factor. The other main point of this movie is how these two sisters are kind of carrying the wounds and the burdens from their family's history, and their father is coming back into their lives and trying to reconnect with them, but not really for the purposes they would hope for. He's trying to get them to agree to be part of this movie that he's making. And this kind of lack of emotional intelligence by the father, who's played by Stellan Skarsgård, is really, I think, one of the stronger aspects that's really toyed with in this film.
Even you meet him in the beginning, and how you meet him is another traumatic event.
Yeah.
Right? So you get a quick glance of how they feel about their father. And he's just chilling, mellow walking, how's everyone doing? As if he hasn't been gone for years, or whatever it may be. But yeah, it's definitely, I think it was great introduction to him, because you got a good sense of their feelings towards him. And it kind of adds to the story as it keeps going, when it breaks down all these generational traumas that you mentioned and how they all start to intertwine with each other. For sure. But I'm glad you brought him up, though, because I was going to ask you too. The acting, right? The acting, he did an amazing job. Not only is this film nominated for Best Picture, I think pretty much the main four are nominated for supporting actor, actress. He's nominated for actor, right? Best actor?
I believe he's Best Actor. The lady that plays Nora's actress, and I think the lady that plays Agnes and Rachel are both supporting.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, to pull two supportings for a foreign film. Foreign films weren't even thought to be a thing that could be winning Oscars until as early as 7 years ago with Parasite?
Parasite was 7 years ago.
Yeah, 2019.
Dang.
Yeah, foreign films, they're really having a staying power in the States, which is something beautiful to see, because, foreign films didn't start with Parasite, but, now they're getting, the recognition they deserve, because this movie is very good.
Oh, that's the truth. You think it's good. I told you. So no, but I think what makes this movie even more special is, you brought this up in terms of like getting the recognition it is, especially for foreign film, is I think in film, I think we kind of like got over the symbolism and how settings and, dialogue, but like for this particular film, silence, how that told a story. And I was reading this article about how we're part of this new generation of you have to put plots in the script. And this was a film where you really had to dive in and pay attention and be present to understand this plot, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I appreciated it so much, was that it made me think of these older films that did that without having to expose so much of it so that you understood it.
Oh yeah, and this film is so emotional, but it's not like that very like heavy acting. It's so much like just watching this slow like burn. I mean, you're watching this like heartbreaking stuff that doesn't occur through like these big bombastic moments, mm-hmm. but just by the subtlety and expressions or lack of expressions done by the father or seen by like the sisters, and how like, I mean, there's sequences where there's barely any talking, but all through like the body language and the slow kind of buildup of tears to them be careening down the face. Like, it's just so much, it's so powerful. I mean, it's so, like, it reaches out of the screen and really touches like the watcher, like emotionally, I felt.
I agree. And then even with the title, Sentimental Value, I think it's a good tie-in to like, what exactly do we give value to? Mm-hmm. Do we give value to these like memories and moments that we hold from past generations, or, certain phases of our lives? Or is it in objects and all of that, which, you see that there's objects in this film that have this tie to a bigger story, such as the stool, right? Mm-hmm. And, but also in terms of relationships within the film, like, do I hold on to this past? What do I bring forward with me? Mm-hmm. I think is a kind of a beautiful thing that plays out throughout the whole film as well.
Yeah, and one thing that I feel like needs like a little special attention is how it goes even beyond just like the main kind of characters in this, and how it even takes the time. Like, there's a whole sequence of this movie where you're seeing even further in the past, like like you're seeing the parents of the father, and how like it's never trauma. Like, trauma never just starts. It never, like, it's not one person that decides to just like take this spitefulness out. But it's this kind of buildup and buildup and buildup from all the generations prior that lead to these kinds of like bad actions that are taken out on the people that you care about most.
Well, there's also beautiful moments that we're seeing in some of those scenes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the relationship he has with his aunt, mm-hmm. there was a little glimpse of that, but also showing how these moments do tend to like play a role in our presence, right? Mm-hmm. Which, and also you brought up that scene. I'm also thinking about the scene where two individuals had to recite a monologue, and the difference that that monologue carried between them. And you can just tell, like, one person, as they were reading it, definitely hit them way differently.
Yeah. Right?
And I think that's when something was very evident. Not to spoil the film, but something that was very evident that later is recognized within another character, mm-hmm. just by hearing that person say certain words.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of a very creative way of kind of giving us another story, mm-hmm. as well.
And one of the more interesting aspects that I feel like was quite the kind of spin to this scenario that I feel like has been done before, mm-hmm. was the use of the character of Rachel in this movie.
Oh,
what did you think of her like implication in her as like a tool to be used in this film?
I feel like first she did a great job.
Yeah.
An amazing job. She also told a good story with nonverbals and everything. Adding her, I think, is just like yet another reminder of like how we tie ourselves to certain things, maybe to mirror things, project onto whatever it may be, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking of all these scenes that she's in that I'm just like, I'm so glad you're a part of this film, because like it helped tell the deeper layers of certain relationships in there. through projection and through other realms, I guess
I
you
mean,
say.
to a certain point, almost felt like we were Rachel, like we were the outsider going in, like we were almost like a proxy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting too.
And putting pieces together, because that's kind of like what she was doing as well.
Yeah.
You know? But definitely, that I think we probably were Rachel in some moments. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's me and Zach, of course. Like,
Yeah, it is perfect. It will always be perfect.
are we making you want to watch Sentimental Value? She's like, no, it sounds like too much emotion.
Yeah, the movie sounds super boring.
But like, speaking of outsider in, did you ever have moments where you felt awkward as things were being like revealed?
Oh, a ton. And I think it all had to do with Stellan's portrayal of Gustav.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think where it hit me the most was a scene that we haven't really talked about yet, was his interactions with one of the characters, Agnes, her son, and how she approached him. Those were the scenes where I was like, it was like gritting my teeth watching it, because I mean, you're watching him, like you're almost watching the sisters watch exactly what he did to them to this little boy, and how like all the hope and excitement that they have, or this little kid has for his grandfather, these the sisters, they recognize all the telltale signs. And so I just thought it was so hard to watch them two interact and then watch everyone else react to them two interacting.
I will say though, like to bounce off of that, let's talk about like the beautiful people that it was to interact. Like this sister relationship in that film.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think, you know, I have told you this, like one of my favorite scenes of the film was like just how in sync they seem. I think there's a moment where something happens to one of the sisters. I don't know, like a rough time. Like I don't know if it was like when she recognizes something and the sister, you know, kind of acknowledges it. Like, okay, I haven't heard from you in a couple days. Like something's up, and like automatically goes and checks in. But the dialogue that happens in that at the sister's house was definitely like one of the most beautiful dialogues I've ever seen. I think I cried.
Yeah,
I definitely cried like watching that unfold, and it was a reminder of like, because you know we talked about generational trauma, but also like the eldest child. You get a good sense of like how difficult it is to be the eldest child at times, and that moment when she's like, "I'm sorry for our childhood," and the younger sister's like, "What are you talking about? We didn't have the same childhood because I had you."
Yeah, I thought that was one of the most powerful moments for me. I took of it as more of like an aspect where these, like, if you ever have these feelings like you don't matter in the eyes of other people, and you feel like you're lacking this contribution, where you never realize how much you truly do mean to people. And I took that away, and it just hurt. Like, it was crazy to see, like, because I mean, the whole movie is really centered around the main character Nora and her own demons, and how they kind of have manifested in her current life. And the end of the movie kind of shows how much she's blind to all of the good and all that she like means to the people that she cares about and care about her.
I mean, yeah, because I mean, in that aspect, she was her sister's protector, right? To try to give her this normal sense of love. But I mean, you mentioned at the end of the movie, she kind of, you know, recognizes stuff. I think it's a good moment to also acknowledge that you don't always get closure, but you recognize like a sense of recognition of like this kind of happened. Like, is the closure gonna happen with certain people ever in your life? Like, especially people like that, right? Like your father.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too into the weeds, but this movie doesn't have a happy ending. There's no grand get together, but there is this almost like sense of understanding. I mean, the last shot of this movie is this continuous held shot of her looking at the camera, and it's just panning out for almost, it feels like a minute. And it's just like showing how kind of internalized and how much acceptance that this character, who at the beginning of this movie was so timid and scared of her past coming back, how she's been able to grow as a person and kind of overcome those feelings of anxiety and fear of her like demons, essentially.
I mean, does she overcome the feelings of anxiety and demons?
I don't think it might not be overcoming, but it's still, it's that point of acceptance.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. And again, and that's where you get those moments of how just silence feels so much. And as a viewer, you're like watching this happen, and based on how you went through the movie, again, she could have been a mirror for people, right? Of like, maybe as a viewer, I mean, me personally as a viewer, like I was like looking at that, you know, that scene thinking, dang, like, you know, you start thinking of your own stuff or whatever it may be that you probably didn't get closure from, or moments where you're like, I was the protector. I mean, I was the eldest daughter. So like, I mean, so thinking of like, oh dang, you're right. Like, I guess like I kind of want to dive more into like that sister relationship. You know, I mean, like I mentioned, I was the oldest. So like kind of seeing that relationship, and I maybe like me personally connecting more with Nora, right? And kind of, and there was a moment too of like a little, I guess, I don't want to say jealousy, but a little like maybe contentment for her sister. Like, you have a full life, right? Married, have a kid, and all of that. And kind of that, again, that conversation that goes on beyond that, I think was very beautiful, of like the sister wanting her younger sister's life to be very different, you know? And I think it goes into like the emotional restraint sometimes that some of these characters hold, where you don't see so much emotion in there, but you can feel and sense the emotion in that conversation, you know? And then, of course, Agnes going back and mentioning, you know, how different her life was because she had someone like her to feed into it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that was one thing that really hit home for me, because I mean, it really struggles as someone who loves film and loves to kind of digest it and understand it, is that I realized while watching this movie how much, like, I just don't understand certain aspects of things. I mean, you said that you're the older sister. I am the youngest in my family. I have an older sister. And it made me kind of get very introspective with myself almost, and how much I realized that I would like look to my older sister and look as a person of guidance, as someone who understands the situation that I am in growing up in my household. Like, even not like a bad household, but it's like I always have this person that is above me and has had the experience, but she doesn't have that person now, and I can't imagine not having that person. And so it was such an interesting thing to kind of realize how I have my own kind of perspective on this, and how much of the world isn't my own perspective.
But that's like the beautiful thing about film, right? Is like different viewers have different takes, and then you know, and in a sense, like, even though all these heavy things were happening in the film, and you know, you're trying to like play tricks with your memory of like, do we all remember things the same way, right? And that was a good scene where it's like, I remember childhood like this, I remember it like this. And but those dynamics, in a sense, for me, I felt like it was more of a love story among siblings. Yeah. And in a dark, I don't want to say it wasn't that dark of a film, but you know, in a pretty heavy movie, right? It's like, how cool to have that, for sure.
I mean, this film in its themes isn't dark, but what I think it is real. I mean, more than anything.
Maybe that's what makes it dark.
Yeah.
Right? It probably hits close to home for a lot of people compared to like vampires coming after you.
Yeah. Well, okay. But I mean, that's where we have to kind of talk about the awards section, and how this movie is nominated for a ton. It's nominated for basically all the acting categories and Best Picture. And so I have to ask, do you feel that all of this works together to make a Best Picture? Because we've set up that the acting is sound, but how do you feel this movie is as a full package?
See, this is where, you know, how people have their list of like, this is what should win, but this is what would probably win. I think it's one of those films where it's like, you really have to, again, be mindful of it, dive into it, but the acting was incredible, right? But then you have other elements where it does center around a house the whole entire time. You really, you know, I don't know. It's definitely a tough one. It probably wasn't a lot of people's favorite film out of all the nominations. What about you? What do you think?
I do think it could win. I think all these films could win. But I do think it has a higher hill ahead of it than it would, say, some of the other films, just because I feel like where a lot of films are a kind of jack of all trades movie, this movie was very much a specialist kind of thing. This one really focused on the individuals and their own interactions, more so than a grandiose plot with so much interweaving. It was more so isolated, I would say. But not that it's bad, but more so that it had a almost ceiling to it, like a house.
Ooh, what a good take on that one. Yeah, I was just I think as soon as I watched it, I put it straight to the top. I was like, I think I even told you, I was like, you need to watch Sentimental Value. I think I've been raving about it since I watched it. And
even before it was nominated, you've been pulling for this movie.
I knew it was going to be nominated, and I was right, and it carried another 7 nominations with it. So yeah. I think I was more ecstatic for that because I realized, like, okay, I wasn't wrong about this. It was great, and I'm glad a lot of people really appreciate it. It's, I think, nice to have, as you said earlier, a film that's real. Yeah. Right, and where you have to be there with them to understand things.
Yeah. Well, I think we're out of time, unfortunately. But this movie, if you have not seen it, please take the time to do so. It truly is an experience that I can't relate to many other films. But thank you all for viewing. This has been an episode of the Academy Countdown. My name is Zach Trevino.
I'm Bianca Moreno.
And thank you all for watching.